Hi guys, in this video I'll show you how to test creatives with your Facebook ads. Now, creative is one of the most important parts of your Facebook advertising, and one of the biggest mistakes that I see advertisers are making is that they're not testing enough creatives or enough ads, right? So basically they test like one variation, it doesn't work, right? And then they just give up on the product, they give up on ads, and kind of like they're frustrated with their results. And so what we have learned from, millions of dollars in advertising spend is that creative is one of the biggest factors in success of your advertising. And in this video, I want to show you exactly how to test it, different ways to test creatives. I'll show you examples of the creative. I'll show you inside of our ad accounts, like how we test the creative. So you know exactly what to do and how to find your winning creative that you can scale up heavily with Facebook ads. Like there are a few things that could be tested, right? So for example, you can test a different call to action buttons. For example, you can test like sign up, shop now, learn now, right? So this is one of the options, right? Then you can use and test same videos with different headlines, right? Then you can use same video with different text. You can use one image, versus like one video, so you can basically see what kind of option works best for your product. Then you can test video with another video. So there are plenty of options, right? You can use square video versus like a full-size video. So there are a lot of options, right? So how to decide basically what's the best way for you personally to structure and scale your creative, right? So there are a few ways to do it, right? So first of all, I'll show you basically different ways, kind of like how you can structure it, and also I'll show you specific examples in one of the ad accounts, so you can see kind of like how it's structured and how it can be tested, right? So you can do it manually, right? Which is like the most simplest way, basically, right? Where you have like 2 to 5 ads per ad set. You have this is conventional method. It's like manually done, right? You find winners, you kill losers. You can see by return on ad spend kind of like what are the results, right? And ideally you would have like 2 to 4 ads here. I would recommend not more than 5, because then kind of like each of these options requires a budget. So let's say if you have like $20 budget per ad set, then if it's distributed for let's say 10 ads, then each variation can only get like $2, right? Which is nothing, right? So you want to give it 2 to 4 variations, like 5 maximum, that I would recommend. So each one of them gets enough data and properly tested, right? There are a few cons of this approach. It has to be done manually, right? So you would have to spend time setting it up and then kind of measure it and switch between ad set view and ad view, kind of see what's working. And also Facebook might not allocate budget evenly, so I'll show you in a second. But Facebook might allocate most of the budget to some of the ads that are not necessarily even the most profitable, and some ads might not get a lot of budget at all. So that's disadvantage of this. I'll show you how you can kind of overcome this. And so the most reasonable structure with this, I would say if you can test, for example, 2 different angles, right? For example, by angle I mean kind of the main benefits of your product. So if you can test it here in a way where you test video 1 and text 1, and then you test second video, basically have 2 variations of video, but you test second variation of text, right? So you have basically 4 variations, and you have 2 videos, you have 2 texts, and basically you find which one is the most profitable variation for you. I'll show you how to find that out, right? So then how you optimize it, you turn off ads with low ROI, you see kind of what's underperforming by great deal. Then you one of the things to remember is you make the number of ads you test small, again 4 to 5 maximum, right? And change one feature at a time. Don't test too many variations, because this will be not very significant testing, right? It only will be few dollars for each variation, and if you test too many variations, then you don't know exactly what's working and what doesn't, right? So I want to show you now the example of this testing, right? So for example, if we take this month, right? So we test for example, this month, let's say we have these ad sets you can see, right? So this is the approach, right? Like you have different like ads basically created. So with this specific one, there are different like images you can see, and basically you can see kind of like which variation gets the best results. Now it's not like turned off. Like this one is not turned off, although it's like underperforms compared to others, because it's still like above break-even ROAS, right? So it's all right. It's still, you know, getting sales. It still is profitable, but you know, it's kind of like other ones are performing better. So if that was, for example, like 0.75 or like 0.5 ROAS, right, it would be turned off. But at this specific case, it's still profitable, so it's still good, right? So we still keep it running. We have different images, and Facebook likes variation, guys. Like Facebook likes when you have like multiple variations of the ad. Obviously, sometimes you hit like a winning ad that like just one ad, and you just scale it and you put it and you show it in front of many audiences, and it works well. But most of the cases, for consistency, for profitability, for long-term success, you need few variations of your ads, right? And this could be, as I showed you, this could be like different ad copy. This could be like different video. This could be different, like for example, call to action, right? So there are variations that basically show to different people. Creative, like the image or video. In my experience, that's the biggest part. Like you can see here, we have two variations here, right? Two images, right? And videos, right? So this is basically what we're testing here. Now, so this is one of the approaches, right? So another approach that you can do is basically use the automatic split test by Facebook. I don't personally like this one, right? I haven't found it to be like very like successful, very like practical, and so that's basically what Facebook does. Like Facebook does it for you. Like they do the split testing. They kind of like try to allocate the same number of impressions, same number of kind of like clicks to different variations, and then they send you like explicit statistics, like which variation won. But I found this feature is not like refined enough. It's not effective enough basically to use it. Even this like manual testing is performing better in my experience. So I would stick with like manual if that was kind of like my ad account. So yeah, that's up to you, obviously, what you want to do. Like the benefit here is you have no overlapping of audiences, right? So audiences are not overlapping, which seems like to be the issue for a lot of advertisers, right? So they think like that if they have they target like very similar audiences and there's an overlap and it inflates your costs, which is, I found this is not to be like a big issue unless you're spending like tens of thousands of dollars a day in ad spend. But this is up to you to decide. So the cons of this approach, you need like a large audience. You can pay more for the conversions and everything than you would normally pay, right? Compared to manual testing. Like with manual testing, you quickly can see and identify what's working, what doesn't. You can quickly kill it, and you can do like cross testing here, like images, videos, like thumbnails, headlines. So kind of like different variations, and so you can kind of like identify which variation works the best. But as I said, like in my experience, it's not that perfect. Some variations might get like like a lot of impressions, a lot of spend without actually getting sales. So it does not leave you as much control as, for example, manual, right? I would recommend only test like one feature variable at a time. Then you would like limit your split test to A/B testing only. And just think about like required sample size, how much ad spend you would need to spend on each variation to get like more significant results. And the differences in samples must be significant, right? So for example, like if one variation gets you like the ROAS of like 2 and another gets you the ROAS of like 2.1, this is not very significant, right? This is like 5%, and with all of the variables, all of the kind of like factors, it's not very significant. So I wouldn't stick with this one. It's just like the option that like, and the way you set it up, So on the ad set level, right? So for example, when you do and create, for example, let's do like duplicate here. Do like duplicate, and then so on the ad level, on the ad set level, you have this option for the creation. So you can see, so this is the dynamic creative, which we'll cover in a second, right? And then for some reason it does not show here. So there should be an option here, like for split testing, right? It's not available. Not available for this account for some reason. So yeah, I would just identify like this would be available here on ad set level. So you would see if that is something that you want to do, right? So this is this is the feature that you can utilize. Now the third option is actually the dynamic creative, right? So you can see like this will change a couple of things here if you change it like this, right? So this will basically change all of the setup you will do on the ad level, where you'll have like multiple creatives. I'll show you in a second, basically the more detailed like breakdown on how it works and everything. So yeah, I'll show you just in a second. I want to explain the dynamic creative. So dynamic creative, I found it's one of the very like effective ways to test the the winning and find like the winning combination, winning ads, right? So you basically give Facebook the input data, right? You give like few variables, and then Facebook randomly mixes up variables. Like for example, you have like 3 or 4 different like ad text, right? So Facebook kind of like mixes it up and tries to match that with with a person that would most likely respond to that specific ad, right? So it's kind of like few variations. Facebook like rotates them and shows them to the person who is most likely to support. Now, in this case, you're completely reliant on Facebook, and you don't see results or tests, or also you can break it down, like I'll show you in a second. And also there are like limited variation support. Like you can have like up to 5 titles, right? You can have up to like 10 videos or images. You can have up to 5 tags. You can have 5 descriptions. You can have 5 call to actions. Again, I would recommend to give it sufficient kind of like data for each variation. I wouldn't recommend test more than 4 or 5 variations, whatever that is your ad text, or whatever that is your maybe that is your I don't know, like description, right, or image, right? So I'll show you basically how we set it up, and in a second. So first, I want to a few things that I want to mention, like use your common bidding strategy, right? Like regular bidding strategy, nothing complicated. Stick to broad targeting, so you give Facebook basically enough room to find these people in these audiences, and then your text, videos, headlines should be universal, right? It's like the wider appeal there is, like the better it is, because it will be easier for Facebook to find you buyers. And obviously monitor the performance. If dynamic creative is not performing, then obviously you have to do something. You have to shut it down, because it's all about the performance. It's all about ROAS. So it's not like after 3, 4, 5 days, it's kind of like suddenly stops performing. In my experience, it's most likely performs from day 1, or it does not perform, right? So I'll show you example of dynamic creative. So let me show you some of the example here. Yeah, so for example, this one, right? So as you can see, so the budget $150, performed had the ROAS of 1.4. Let's do this one, right? Let's do this one. It has like higher ROAS. So we spent was like 2,400. The return on ad spend was almost like $5,000. So 2x ROAS, decent. So you can see the breakdown here. Basically, this is basically the different angles, right? Just for you guys to understand, like these are different angles for the same ads, right? So the products that are being sold, like they have multiple kind of like benefits, right? So for example, like let's say you sell, I don't know, you sell, let's say a phone, right? You sell like an iPhone, right? So iPhone has like a lot of different angles that you can sell it with, right? For example, for people who are passionate about photography, right? You can sell it as basically, it has the most like advanced camera like ever developed for a smartphone. You know, it has like a triple zoom, you know, whatever, like those kind of features, right? So that's one angle, right, that you can use. Another is, you know, it's kind of like, it's higher status phone, right? I mean, it's you know, people who have iPhones say kind of like it's kind of like higher status, like these products are considered like more like a premium product, right? It's kind of like helps you with your status, right? So this is another, so you get like a lot of compliments, you increase your status, right? So this is another angle that could be utilized for the phone, right? And then the third one could be, for example, for people who are tech, you know, like, or who do some like, I don't know, some maybe apps, right? It has like you know, the most like powerful operational system, and it has like some of the features and has like faster processing and stuff, right? So depending on what kind of like audience you want to reach, you will have different angles. So the same happened here. So as you can see, there have been like multiple angles for this product, right? One was compliments. So for example, if you use this product, you'll get like a lot of the compliments, right? From, you know, from your friends, from family, etc. Right. Second is the comfort, right? So these are like the most comfortable, you know, products, the most comfortable, you know, whatever for you specifically. And then so this product helps with foot pain, right? So it helps with foot pain. So basically, you know, if you have like a foot pain, or if you have something like this, then it will help you to overcome it. Now you can see like clearly, so the audience was exactly the same, right? The three kind of like, and the budget was, I mean, it was like pretty similar. And so it was lower cost conversions, very simple. But you can see like these different angles, right, perform like totally different, like vastly like underperformed like these two, right? Also comfort, like also this is common language. That's why I say it's kind of like you need to test more. You need to test more variations. You need to test like more variable, and you need to think about your product as kind of like what problem it solves, right, for user. Like, you know, what kind of like thing it solves for users, so users, you know, can basically improve their life in some way, right? So in this particular case, so these are all like called. They all had like equal chances, but the results were like totally different for these three angles, right? And so this was tested, these three were tested with dynamic creative. Now let me show you kind of like how it's structured, right? So these are the results, like 240 like return on ad spend, right? Which is quite decent. And then what you can do here is basically test, you know, see what kind of like variation performed the best, right? So text, right? Right, so these are different like text that have been tested, right? These are different like images that have been tested. And then basically Facebook has identified the most like winning, the most consistent variations, the most consistent variable, right? So with dynamic creative, you give Facebook some initial data, and then Facebook rotates like different variations, and then it finds what is working for you. So guys, you can even use similar structure for testing your own, you know, like products and stuff. So like here, for example, you can use like different angles for the same product, right? And you will be amazed like how different your results are. You will be amazed like how different your results can be if you change the angle, if you test like a different angle. And then on the ad level, you can test like these different variations. So you can use the same testing structure and basically identify the winning creative, winning angle. So guys, this is basically how to test creatives. So as we have covered, like you have three different ways. You can do it like manually, right? Which is good way. I showed you these examples. How you optimize it as well. You can do like by split testing, although I don't recommend this feature, and it's not available for all of the accounts. And then you can also do it by dynamic creative testing, right? So these are basically 3 ways. I showed you examples, I showed you exactly how you can structure it, I showed you the importance of angles and how it can impact your performance. So this is it, guys, for this video. If you have any questions, or guys, if you want me to cover any specific like question or challenge, please put in the comments your question, so I know like what kind of like video, what kind of like content to prepare for you for the next time. So